Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Buzz channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today, doing a recap of our, what is this, week 8? Week 9? Week 8 loss? Our loss against the Los Angeles Chargers. I almost said San Diego, so bad, on Sunday Night Football. So, last night, I had the game on. It was on mute because I was doing some things, but I would say I probably tapped out a little into the third quarter because we were losing, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to record last night anyway because I was busy. So I watched the game, rewatched the game today, and doing a recap. But there's not a whole lot to say. We're not gonna drag this out too much. I mean, the thing is that I'm starting to feel like, first of all, as I said, I think, one or two games, it's a little silly start talking about picks and stuff. And I'm not saying that the season's over, let's start talking, but we can start talking about the future and everything. The draft we'll get to, but we could definitely start looking at just the overall structure because I don't see a turnaround, especially with the schedule we have. Any big success we have is because we have a light schedule. And so, of course, if we rattle off 5 wins or something, people are going to take that to mean one thing. And yes, it does matter how you win. But at the same time, I don't think structurally things are going to change because I look at this team and my first thought was just we need more talent. We do need more talent, and I don't think that's the most important thing, but that was one of the first thoughts I had is just we need more talent because I already told you I don't think Kyler Gordon brings anything great to the nickel spot. Obviously, Brisker's good at what he does. Eddie Jackson has never been the safety people hyped him up to be, and years later we see that has been true. So you have some deficiencies there, plus there's injuries. And then Jalen Johnson, to me, for all what people like to say, I still think he's like an above average player. Good player, if that's the scale, I would definitely put him in the good category. If we're doing Madden, I'll put him at like 86. So I think he's good, but as I talked about before, just more overall in the league, the elite corner is not a valuable thing no more. So even if Jalen was as good as people said, it's not as valuable because the argument I made in that discussion was that I'd much rather have the Bengals, not this year, but the Bengals that we've had the previous few years where you got guys mostly all from different teams. You had Mike Hilton from the Steelers. You had Awuzie came from the Cowboys. You had Eli Apple at one point and then some other guys, but then Jesse Bates, Von Bell, they were drafted. But either way, you had 4 to 5 guys that knew how to communicate and play as one coverage unit. That is far more valuable than just having one shutdown guy. So I just think our overall group, and Stevenson, he's a rookie, he'll get better. They're flagging him up like crazy. He's a physical guy, but as I said before, I'd rather somebody be physical and I have to call him back rather than somebody that you have to push to be physical. So I think he could get better, but just overall, we just need better talent. And obviously on offense, like there's a lot to be said, especially the interior. But I will say, because I don't want to bury the lead, I did get to the point when I think about it, when you think about the opponents we play, you think about the players we have and what we can do, I'm starting to get on the thought process of the coaching just isn't there. Now, like most times, my response is not going to be this hyperbolic, jump off the edge type statement that everybody likes to do. To sit here and say Eberflus can't coach is crazy. To say he can't coach defense or doesn't know defense is crazy. Same thing about Getty and all the way down the line. Now, I don't know what happened with our D coordinator and all that, but I'm sure it didn't help. Obviously, just in general, the situation for the Bears doesn't help. So all I'm going to say is I don't think this is an indictment, much like Nagy, that they could never be head coaches. But this was just not a great situation. Like most of the time, these head coaching vacancies aren't great situations to come into. And, you have the hornet's nest that's Justin Fields and all that. And it just, the approach they took, where we're going to rip down the roster to its bare bones. And I'm not saying that it can't work, because to be honest, you've got it pretty much set up to make Eberflus the scapegoat. And everybody, I mean, all the way down the line, you could go Getsy, and then you could go Eberflus, or you could do both, whatever. You can make him the scapegoat, but I don't think it was a great situation. Again, I'm a coach, so that might be my bias. But whatever it is, I think the way we're currently structured is not working. It's not working. Whether we got to have better people on the staff, or it just needs a different fit. So I watch these games because you think with TJ Edwards, with Edmonds, we should be able to cover a space. Sanborn isn't great, but he does pretty well. And then obviously you're nickel most of the time. I think there's upgrades to be made with Kyler. Obviously, the biggest thing I've been preaching for years at this point is that we don't have a consistent pass rush. So that would help, but this D-line has talent. This D-line can stop the run. This front can stop the run. There's a lot of things that we can do well, but to watch us against Chargers, and the Chargers are great. Obviously, you don't have Mike Williams, but still a lot of weapons, still a creative team, efficient offense. But you look at what they do well, what we do, and you should be able to have some type of competition there. I honestly think, as much as you don't want to hear it, is the biggest thing is that we just completely did not change the pocket at all for Herbert, at least not consistently. A few times we were able to do some things, but Herbert's got time. He's going to take big shots. That's the type of offense they are. So it goes back to that, but still, I think schematically, there's things we could have done better. There's pressure sets we can do better. There's coverages we can do better. And then overall is preparation, because that's one part that gets left out of it, even by me, because we often want to focus on what's the play call, did they execute? And it's not just checkers and chess like people try to make it seem. Like someone might call, hey, we're calling this play, and we call the perfect coverage to cover that play. But if we aren't preparing our team to recognize certain things or to execute properly, then, it won't matter. So, yes, there's the conversation about players doing what is called. There's the conversation about calling the right thing. But then there's also the preparation as well. Because one thing I could say is, as you get further into the season, if the issue is execution, and you continue to have those issues, well, then you got to question, like, what's the preparation looking like during the week? If you got the same guy, or you got multiple people making the same mistake, what is the preparation looking like during the week? And so that does have to fall on the coaching staff to an extent. And as I might have said before, I'm very lenient because I've been there. Now, obviously, I coach people making millions of dollars and stuff, but I've coached players and you can't play for them. And you see players that no matter how much coaching you do, will just go out there and not do the right thing. Now, that's on the head coach to have the guts to put that player on the bench or to do something against that player. And that's hard on every level. I imagine even harder in the NFL. But you had a Chargers defense that was absolutely terrible, but bench J.C. Jackson last year and this year. Like, and I ain't saying it fixed everything, but it's at some point up to the coaches to hold the team accountable to get the best out of them. So, and I'm not saying that I watched all 22 of every play to tell you exactly what it is. Obviously, there's a lot of things you won't know if you're not in the room. But I just think about matchups and things, and I'm just like, we should have performed better. Offensive-wise, the interior line's terrible. I mean, not the entire – the two of the three. Whitehair, I think he's done. I think he's done. And Lucas Patrick is not that good. So we definitely got to build it there. And it's starting to feel like the O-line will never be right. Like Darnell Wright, I assume will get better. I see a lot of people recently talking about how good he is, which is interesting because I watch him and he has a lot of problems. But I assume he'll get better. Obviously, Braxton Jones has been pretty good at left tackle, but he's out. And Tevin Jenkins is I was gonna say a guy in the dog. He's a guy. I don't like saying dogs. But that other two, yeah, we got to figure something out. We got to figure something out moving forward because the offensive line is important all around. Obviously, people want to talk about the tackles because they go against the edge rushers. And the blind side and all that traditional stuff. But the fact of the matter is the whole O-line is important because if they beat you in the middle, it's more dangerous than if they beat you on the edge. And if you think these edge rushers are just on the edge, check out Myles Garrett and Parsons and everybody else that's doing it now. They come into the interior too. So the whole O-line has to be strong together as a unit. And so that's definitely got to get cleaned up. But the offense is offense. For whatever reason, we run pretty well, even against teams that I think, hey, we might not run well. Now, I'm not saying the Chargers is one because they're bad. So far, they've been a really bad, like horrible defense, but still, we run the ball well. We do some things, and I don't necessarily think the offense I don't think it's archaic or anything, but it felt limited. And I think that at some point, as a OC and a play call and all that, you gotta just kind of let it rip. Because what I've seen throughout really Trubisky's tenure, Justin Fields' tenure, now with Bagent, is just like, yeah, they're not that type of quarterback, so we got to limit things. And I get it, because it could go horribly wrong. But I just start to feel like you almost tying one arm behind your back trying to run such limited things. And again, it's not super archaic. Like there's motion, there's jet sweeps, there's screens, there's all types of stuff. But it just feels like our consistent passing concepts, they're pretty limited. And I just feel like you got to let it rip a little bit. Now, I mean, they came out first play and bombed it. So it's hard for me to be hard stance on that. But just from what I'm watching, my gut feeling is it looks a little limited. Like we're trying to, put the training wheels on, which I get. I mean, that's what you do for young quarterbacks, especially backup quarterbacks. But obviously, penalties, some drops, all types of things. It wasn't a clean game from us, excuse me. And I don't necessarily think we would have got blown out because these drives and these possessions mean a lot. It could change things. When a team goes down and scores, and then you immediately 3 and out and get them a short field or turn it over or whatever. And then, I mean, you look at the Chiefs game, you look at the Baltimore game from last week, that's exactly what happened. Like, the defense isn't going to be perfect every time, but if they give up a touchdown and you immediately get a ball back and it's 14-0 in the first 3 possessions, that becomes a hard pill to swallow. So, it's definitely true that we have to upgrade talent in a lot of places. But I'm starting to get on board with the idea that the coaching staff is just they're not getting our players fully prepared. And I'm going to need more evidence for, like I said, I'm a hard stance on that. But that's kind of what I'm feeling. But I want to get to the Bagent thing because there is this interesting debate going on, and I've been so good at staying off Twitter because I cannot stand these Bears fans, but I was on there looking for something else and I saw it. So there's this big discussion that some of the radio people have claimed that basically there's this campaign to throw Justin Fields under the bus, the smear campaign, because of the way that the broadcast went last night. And again, I had it on mute, so I didn't hear. But one of my coworkers actually mentioned Collinsworth saying how he was talking about Bagent. So I was just like, okay, I didn't think it was a big deal, but then I see it on the internet. And so there's this debate that's been there about Justin Fields and basically being sabotaged and Bagent being praised, blah, blah, whatever. I, for the life of me, truly do not understand this need to take sides. Like, I'm a Bears fan, and obviously you might like certain players more than others, but I'm a Bears fan. I'm going to talk about the Bears and like what the reality is. For some reason, some people have turned this into a Justin Fields thing. So there's such Justin Fields fans or whatever that they have to bash Eberflus and Getsy at any chance they get, or they have to bash Bagent, or they have to bash anybody that's praising Bagent. And there's this big debate about we shouldn't even be talking about who's the starter. And I just think it's silly. I mean, at the end of the day, you have enough sample size to know what Justin Fields is with this team. You've seen the lean times. You've seen a rework roster. You've seen an even more improved roster this year. You see what he's done. And obviously, if you drastically change the team, that might be different. But with what we got, we've seen, for the most part, what he is and what he can do. And so, obviously, he's injured now. But prior to him being injured, we're not like competing for the playoffs. And you have some top pick capital, and things just have not looked the way you wanted them to. So to sit here and debate that it's a foregone conclusion that he's our starter or whatever, I think it's silly. Like I said, there's my thought at one point of what I would do, which I said I would play out the year with Justin to see what's going on. But at the same time, I'm not thinking it's crazy for these other options. Like, I didn't think putting Bagent in and letting them get in the look wasn't a crazy option either. Obviously, the injury happened, and so it kind of happened organically. But to sit here and just have this discussion back and forth as if we're supposed to just anoint Fields the starter like it's disrespectful to talk about it, where's the evidence that that's what he deserves? And you know I'm the king of context. I know things haven't been perfect and all that, but I'm getting to a solid idea, formulating what I think he is. I'm sure other people in the building are. And so is he that good where it's not a question? No, I don't think so. Especially with what we have loaded up for the future. Especially first of all, he's not even a Ryan Poles guy. But even outside of that, Ryan Poles might not even have his job. So then you're talking about another person coming in. So it's very much a possibility Fields is not back. So yes, if Bagent does well, it is absolutely a conversation. And then I see people talking about, oh, Fields and Bagent's a friend. No one said they're not. Like, y'all, the fans, are making these narratives. They're not making these narratives. So they can be friends, they can be teammates, but the game is the game, business. I'm not beholden to Justin Fields. I'm beholden to the Bears. So I'm not going to distort reality because I like Justin Fields. The reality is we might be locked into a crossroads. But I would say right now, since it's early-ish, we're at a point where we could very possibly heading towards a crossroads. And if that's the case, the option's on the table. And you could recognize that without being a Justin Fields hater. So now, the question that comes up after that naturally, and probably where people will call me a hater, how has Bagent looked? I think he's looked pretty good. Now, I already told you what I felt when I first saw him and all that, and none of that's changed. Like I said, we're going to lose games. We could lose with Bajan just as much as we can with Fields. But like I said, they're different quarterbacks. And so if you want to talk about Getsy's system, quote unquote, again, I'll ask you what is it because you probably don't know. But if you want to talk about his system, or you want to talk about a better fit for the offense, or a different play style that fits off, okay, we'll talk about it. But I think in general, as far as like production wise, they're going to be in a similar boat because the O line's the O line and the receivers are the receivers and the defense. So similar boats, but we're talking about just individualistic. As I mentioned, like he's got the tools. He's got a much better rhythm than Justin Fields. His clock is different. And Justin Fields is a scrambler. I wouldn't say a play extender, mostly just a scrambler. But either way, that's a popular wave right now. So he feels like he can extend plays. So his rhythm won't be the same as Bagent. Bagent doesn't necessarily play that way. And that's not a bad thing or a good thing. There's quarterbacks that can freelance at a high level, a lot of the high level guys. And then you got guys like Burrow, who's going to throw in rhythm. And when he runs, it's because it makes sense with what the defense is giving him. And so I think Bagent's much more in that traditional form. So he throws with rhythm, timing, anticipation. He's got a lot of athleticism, so if he takes off, he can. He's got plenty of velocity to put the ball downfield and throw it, into windows. But he's a young rookie quarterback learning NFL coverages and all that stuff as well. Now, some of that stuff last night I think was miscommunication and, again, trying to get the offense to execute. But overall, I think you have to be excited with what you see. I think, honestly, and I won't even say this is hyperbole. I'm saying it early because, that's what real football people do. We forecast because we know what football is. I would put him at the level of a Brock Purdy and a Dak Prescott in terms of your value for the pick. And again, you got to think about them coming out. Now, Purdy's numbers are astronomical coming out. But again, he's with the 49ers, so you got to take that into context. But what Purdy was able to provide within that offense, what Dak was able to provide within the offense for Dallas. Sorry, I could not remember the team. What he was able to provide for Dallas and the type of game he was able to play at a young age, that's what I feel about Bagent. I think he 100% has the ability to play within that type of game that is starter level for what we're doing right now. And so I'm not going to go as far as to him versus Fields, who is better type stuff, because like I said, the games we got, we could lose them with either one. We could lose them with either one. And I don't mean like obviously you could lose the game by having nobody there, but I mean like in terms of how we fight in those games, I think we'll be right around either one because they're in the same situation. So I don't think either one is the type of quarterback that's going to elevate our situation. But if it's me as I sit here now, I mean, yeah, there's a world where both of them could come back because I think most people agree backup quarterbacks are becoming even more popular and important these days. So knowing that Bagent can do these things, yeah, absolutely, you got him there. So I don't know if you necessarily need to bench Justin. But again, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility, and I don't think it's crazy to say. More than likely, you want to let Justin continue and see what he got. But, man, you watch the team, you see him with Bagent, you see everybody's going to congratulate people doing well. But I think he's a good fit. He's a good fit. So, yeah, just overall, man, I mean, you got a lack of pass rush that leads to Herbert having time to really carve us up. The run game wasn't, I mean, we weren't terrible against it, but again, you get the screens, the misdirection. The good offenses that really scout have all done the same stuff to us. If you really watch, you know what we do. The aggression is good, but people take advantage of it. And that's a big part of what they was able to do last night. And then offensively, I mean, like I said, just a lot of mistakes, the drops, just not clean execution. But the run game continued to be decent, and then the pass game, we was lacking on that. But against the Chargers defense, I honestly expected more. We were able to obviously put up some points and stuff, but I just expected more overall. So, I mean, at this point, the Bears is pretty much who I thought they were if we want to go that route. I do think there are some wins still ahead of us, but for the most part, we're just not a competing team right now. So anyway, go down comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.